Hello guys, last video of the month. I actually did 31 videos. Woohoo! So, I had to save the best for last, which is my top 10 favorite books 2020. Guys, this was hard. It was hard because you guys know I read a lot of amazing books, a lot of good classics, a lot of good Caribbean books and historical fiction. It was so many good books, and so having to narrow it down to 10, I changed the list a couple of times, guys. I literally changed the list a couple of times. I tried to rearrange the books. I did all the extra, and this is what I have. Don't know if I wake up tomorrow morning and think about, no, it should I don't know, but this is what I have. And I love that. I love when I can't pick, really narrow it down to 10 because I read so many great books. So I chose books based on how the book made me feel. How do I feel about the books after reading it a couple weeks ago, months ago, some of these books from early on in the year, and how I was able to get the characters, get the storyline, and get something from it, whether it is an emotional attachment to the story or the story just makes me laugh, made me smile, made me think, made me question so many things that happen. And I don't know if this year was different, would some of these books have that impact on me, because some of these books have a lot to do with identity, family, setting, different things that you don't necessarily think about a lot. But these books did make me think about that a lot this year because of the circumstances of being isolated a lot this year, and the attachment to people and family and things that I was solo. So but I would go into more so of how this book made me feel and what I've learned from these books versus giving you a review, because all these books have reviews and I will link them. So if you want a more in-depth review of these, it's there. So I'm gonna leave it at that, because if I go into each of these books, this video will be way too long. So I'm gonna go with the first book where I have is Crick Crack. So this is a short story collection. I've read 4 short story collection, and this was my favorite this year. This has been around for a while. This is a Haitian author, Edward Danicat, and this is Crick Crack, which is very much known a lot. It's such, her writing really grabs you. And as you read in these stories, you find after a while you analyze it in a different way than expected. That when you're getting to the end, all these stories somewhat have this full circle of understanding of what she's trying to, the message she's trying to give you as a reader. And I love her writing style. I love how these stories really catch you and have you thinking. Some of these stories where the characters were completely not what I expected, and I thought about the storyline. I thought about motherhood. There's one with that woman, a woman in here, and how she protects her son, and it's so many things in this that I find that I still think about. And I read this during the summer, during the Readathon, which was in June, and I still feel very strongly of her writing. So if you are not familiar with this author, I highly recommend it, because she really knows how to write a short story collection that really made sense, that really have an impact on you as a reader. So definitely a yes for this. So the next book is a classic that I didn't expect to really love that much, and had I known, it wouldn't have sat on my shelf for almost 5 years, and that is Charles Dickens' Little Dorrit. I read 3 Charles Dickens this year. I read Old Curiosity Shop and Oliver Twist. I love Oliver Twist and I love this, but I had to think, if I had to choose which one that I'm definitely gonna not forget, it's definitely this one. I think this one, the characters that he created are flawed and entertaining, and it also had real life situation in this, in terms of the debt prison, and poverty level that was going on in England at the time, and how these banks weren't didn't have the security, and people often lost everything in some of these bank setups and things that they were doing. It's entertaining because I laughed a lot, but it has somewhat of an emotional part where there's a bit of love in this, and friendship, connection with people, and the have and the have not, and how he shows a case of the same characters living in poverty and then twisting around where money was within reach of them, and how they would behave and act with money after being poor for how many decades. Love this in the story, and it's one of his best work that I wasn't bored. I wasn't like disappointed in terms of what was going on. There's so many things that I can discuss about this book that I like, that was really interesting and fun. And fun for a classic. It is 860 pages, and I didn't have a problem with it. It was originally, I believe, a series, but which I mean, when you think of how his books are when it's series, there are so many fillers that are in it, but he was able to put other story within the story to kind of like get your attention, and that's why this was on my list. Another book is a classic, and that is Quicksand. This is Nella Larson. This was her debut. Now, I read this. I also read Passing, and the reason why this really touched me is because it dealt with something that is sensitive to a lot of us black folks right now. There was a period when, at the height of all the protests, where you get up and you just like, I'm black. I'm always going to be black. But there's like that moment where you just wish you can just live your life without constantly be reminded that you're black. That kind of deal. And you get this with this character where she is, you know, in a way, identity, and running from her identity, running from things that she has to face, and in a very twisted way made a decision that still turned around, and she still had to face what she didn't want to face. And I love how she created this character. This book is very short. It is only 125 pages, and to think that a story like this can be still relevant in 2020, this is how I felt about it. You can see all these tabs because I really enjoy her work. She is amazing. It's different. It is how she can make these characters and put a storyline that really says more than what you would think. You know, there's so much about this that I got in this. The next book is also a book that tapped into a storyline that is heavy as well. And you know, a lot of these books are heavy. I realized I did grip and held on to heavy stuff. It's just what happened to me. And then real life. This was on the Man Booker, and this story really like got me in terms of when you think of generational trauma and you think of things that people don't talk about and family, and in this you get a character who's struggling. A grief is what opened up the doors to all these things that were suppressed and not dealt with, and now you at that tender age where you're in school and you're amongst people who don't understand you, who you're not sure you want to let in to your space for them to even understand you. And you get this in this. You get weird ways how he expressed his grief and how he handled pain in a way that was very raw and at times maybe hard for some to read. But when I read it, you understand. It was that moment where I got him. And I felt good because I was like, there's so many people in real life who are like this character in this book, and I really enjoyed this one. Then the next one is another Booker, and that was Sugibane. This gave you such a glimpse of a storyline that is real to so many people who are dealing with parents who are substance abuser. In this case, you have a mother who's an alcoholic and a young boy who's doing everything possible to make her happy, to hold on to hope that she can fight this illness that she has. And you see the love, you see the passion, and you feel the sympathy towards the mother because you realize she can't control this. This is something that is so much more powerful than her, and she's fighting a strong fight, and a son who has to still hold on to pieces of him while he's growing. He's becoming a child and into a teenager, and life is what it is, but his love for his mother is just beautiful in this story. I love this really gripped me. I felt some kind of way about this when I was reading it, and when it won, I was very happy about it because it was in a really good storyline and I love it. Then I got to another story, which is the Book of the Axe, and this one also was probably one of the most creative historical fiction that I read this year, and how she tells the story pre English era in Trinidad. And there's things about this I didn't know. I find that I was Googling and looking up things while I'm reading this because I was learning so much. And it also has Indian colonies in the U.S. that was also with this story. So you're going from Trinidad to those Indian colonies in the U.S. and how she created this character. And one of the things that I take away from this I really loved, there was a particular part where this young girl, because the story's about this woman and you're learning about her childhood in when she was young with her parents in Trinidad, and what happened when Trinidad was no longer under the same colony, went to British prior to that. And her father was so symbolic in this because he was creating a space for his daughter to be who she wants to be and to follow the things that she wants to do without being restricted because she was a female. And there was a particular line that I read when I did a review of this, so you definitely should check it out. And that was so really powerful. And I love that setting of family and parenting and what parents should encourage their kid, but still be realistic and not shield them from the world in a way that when they do become older, the world become much more scarier because they were never told that this is not your possibility outside of these home, outside of this land that I have for you. Love this. Love it. Definitely pick it up. Then the next book on my list is a book that really gave me a completely take on a different kind of love, and that is A Tall History of Sugar. Now this is from a Caribbean author, and at first I picked it up, it felt like I didn't know what I was getting myself involved because the main character, one of the main characters doesn't have skin. And so I thought it was going to be some kind of sci-fi situation. It really wasn't. The not having skin represent a lot in this story. And then also she introduced a female character that loved that boy that become a man without the skin. And you see that kind of interesting, weird, somewhat unconventional love. And it took me a really, like, in a place where I was able to really think so much about what was going on in this book. This is a thought-provoking book. It's not really face like everything is what you see. It's just how you analyze it. And I think different people might take this book in a different way. But it really shows you love in a way that is beyond the flesh, beyond sex, beyond those things that we often are get really caught up in when we think of love and being with a person for the rest of our life. And it really touched on that in a way that I still think about this book. This is a book I would definitely reread, and this is a book that I would love to discuss because it's not an easy book to really grasp and understand if you are completely stuck on what is normal. what kind of normal relationship you expect. What's your definition of a normal relationship? And you get that in this. And it explores sexuality in a different way that is not what you would think, you know, but it's a way that there are people who are like this in real life, and how they are sometimes forced to choose based on certain things. And when I tell you, I love this book. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you can get into this book and really analyze it and get it for what it is, you find out how important this book is for so many people that's in our life, real life people. Then we have a book that it literally gave me flashback like about 2 weeks or so after I read it, and that was Another Country by James Baldwin. If I had to sum up a lot of what happened this year, you could read this and really get it. I think when I read it at first, I understood so many things, but then weeks after, when things started happening, and it hit me a whole different way. And I realized this man was brilliant, and how he used social issues, sexuality, friendship, family, and put chaos in this story to distract you, because there's a lot of distraction in this story that you will lose the whole point of the story because of the distraction that's happening. And how he used sex in a lot of this to distract and to not look at beyond what is sex being used in this story, how is it being used in this story. And it didn't hit me until like 2 weeks after I read it. I had to go back to this, and I'm like, wow, this was good. This was good. This was a good book. If you haven't read it, please pick it up. Then we got to John Steinbeck, The East of Eden. And I feel like I was in school when I was reading this, because I was reading the Bible when I was reading this. Like, the scriptures that was in this, and I'll pick up the Bible because I'm not a religious person. I come from a religious family. I was brought up in a religious home. But you know, I don't consider myself like that religious. But this book, I love how a biblical story was taken into a different direction that made you understand certain passages in the Bible even more. And he was very creative in, you know, Cain and Abel. You know, you think of what happened in that story in the Bible and how he created it in here, but he did it in a way that you don't see the inspiration to like way down, and the family saga, the brothers, and the generational things that were happening in this story. I love this. I literally was just like, okay, what next? What next? I do have a lot of sticky. I had them stick in, and I read like so many different things in here that I crack open the Bible, which I have not cracked open the Bible in a minute. Yeah, I know. I know. And I was so into this. The writing, the writing was amazing. The storytelling was just good. I mean, this is a masterpiece for a reason. And I never knew it was this good. And this is another one that was sitting on my shelf probably 3 or 4 years. That was sitting on my shelf. And I was inspired to pick it up. And I'm so glad, because I love this. This is good. And the book last book on the list that read early in the year, and I feel like it still haunts me. The Last Thing You Surrender. Yeah. This is another historical fiction. This is a DD pick for Black History Month in February. I read this with all the emotion, all the feel, and you get characters who are in a time period when there was so much chaos in the world. You have World War going on. You had Jim Crow era that was going on in the U.S. and how he created these characters who are dealing with the situation, and how the female character connected to other people. Like there's a white guy who is in the military. You have her brother who also had to go in. And I loved her brother character. And the father of the white guy in this book is also instrumental in how he talks about belonging. You know, he's an immigrant and he's also American citizen, and to still wanting to belong when you're when others don't look at you that way. It's what makes you American, what makes you belong to this country. That there's a lot of that topic that goes on in this book. And I love the relationship between some of the characters here that towards the end, and it gives you this kind of in your mind, you think of the possibility, what would have happened if this, that, the other. There are some raw, brutal moments in the story that I wanted to throw the book because it was just so sad, and everybody who read this know what that part is, and it sticks with you for a long time. And then there's all these other side characters, that becomes important in the story, and also sad. There is a white woman in this story that will always be remembered for things that she had to endure, as far as having courage and finding her strength and to do the thing that is the unthinkable, but it's also sad to say was needed. Y'all know what I mean. If you've seen this. This is writing amazing. I have no flaws, nothing to say bad about this book. This is how well done this book is. And it's a shame that it's not really talked about much. And it was one of those releases, I believe it was a 2019 release, that was kind of, there was no love for it. Yeah, 2019, and there was not a lot of discussion about this book in the publishing world. It was just went under the radar, and it should not be under the radar. This one of those books that should have been everywhere and constantly talked about, and because it's a well done book. There is literally the writing, the storyline, the character development. Everything about this book was well executed, and the author did an amazing job. And it still sticks with me. February, and no one's knocked it off my number one list. I mean, Steinbeck came close, but this one still held it, and it's still my favorite. So yeah, so yay, came to the end, guys. I'm looking forward to next year and what I can read, and there's so many other books that really I still remember and still love, but these are the ones I think I learned a lot from, and also stick with me beyond weeks and months after reading it. I still have this strong connection and feelings towards the storyline. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and let me know, what was your favorite book of 2020? I would love to know, especially if you are a historical fiction fan, a classic fan. Let me know, because that's, I would love to explore some more books in that area. And thanks for watching, guys, and have a wonderful New Year's Eve if you're watching this, and a happy, successful, productive, joyful 2021. Thank you, guys.